Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about histamines and fermented foods. I did a podcast about this in 2019, but a lot of new things have emerged, new things that can help you. And so I wanted to redo the podcast and give you some updated information and research. Now, how to deal with a histamine flare-up is a very common question that I get a lot, especially since fermented foods can either help or worsen symptoms. And these flare-ups occur when there's a buildup of histamine in the body. And one of the most common displays of too much histamine in the body occurs during, times of allergy season, and that's when your eyes get itchy and watery. But it can also be from foods that you're eating. And it's happening more and more with more frequency. And, antihistamine drugs like Benadryl, Allegra, and other such drugs are used to alleviate these symptoms, but they can cause a lot of problems too. And histamine causes your blood vessels to dilate so that your white blood cells can quickly find and attack the infection or problem. Because it travels throughout your bloodstream, a histamine response can affect your gut, your lungs, your skin, your brain, and your entire cardiovascular system. More and more people are having these types of histamine reactions to food when they've never had them before, and it can be really scary. And so we're trying, so many people are trying to figure out what's happening, and it gets very confusing when you have these types of responses like migraines, headaches, anxiety, flushing, hives, fatigue, nasal congestion, hives, dizziness. Most people just don't know what to do. So what is causing all these problems and allergic responses to food? Researchers show that people with histamine intolerance have different gut bacteria compared to people that do not have histamine problems. And it seems that the ones that have much higher bifidobacteria, they have less problems with histamines. The histamine intolerant people have very low levels in their body. And that also, they have less variety of species in their gut, including bifido and other bacteria. So the imbalance in gut bacteria and a weakened gut lining barrier might be key factors in histamine intolerance related health. So if you have things like leaky gut, you could very well easily start having histamine responses because your gut is not sealed like it should be. And at the base of that is Akkermansia, which is a bacteria in your gut that is in charge of sealing and healing that gut. And Akkermansia can be fixed by eating. It loves things like apple peel powder, berries and fruits. And if you're not giving your body enough of those types of things and you're taking a lot of over-the-counter drugs like ibuprofen, you can get leaky gut. And then all of a sudden you've got histamine problems. So it's very important that you heal and seal your gut to keep you from having leaky gut syndrome. So if you do get an imbalance in your gut, if you've been taking a lot of antibiotics, stress, or a diet high in processed food, the good bacteria strains lessen and lessen. And then what happens is you have more pathogenic bacteria, which can lead to impaired histamine degradation, which is an increased histamine load because you don't have the right bacteria to handle it. But here's the catch. Certain probiotic strains are histamine producing, while other strains are histamine degrading, which will improve your symptoms. But if you have too much of the histamine producing kind and not enough of the other, then you're in trouble. You actually kind of need both because they balance each other out. But when things get out of balance, then you've got too many things creating histamine. And histamines are produced inside the body, but there are also a variety of foods that contain natural histamines in them. And if your gut bacteria is out of whack, then these foods can cause the release of histamine or block the enzyme that breaks down histamines. Your body also produces histamines too, all on its own. And it's not the foods that are creating the problem. The problem is your body's ability to break them down. So there's a whole bunch of lists of foods that people react to, but I'm just seeing more and more. I'm seeing so many people with this problem. And it really is, at the core of this is their gut bacteria, and I want to explain why. And you really have to fix your gut bacteria. But people don't know what to do because sometimes they get symptoms from certain strains of fermented foods. So they don't know what to do. Now, first thing that you can do is there's the enzyme in your body that breaks down histamines, and it is called diamine oxidase, or DAO. And food allergies are also cause histamines to flare up if you don't have enough of that enzyme, DAO, for your body to break things down. So without that, histamines build up and cause problems. And you can take a supplement of DAO that has helped many, but it isn't the only thing that's causing problems of histamine to build up and create inflammation throughout the body. There's a lot of other things I think are going on now. Now, there's a connection with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, and histamine connection. It seems more and more people are having problems with histamines, also have SIBO, and or irritable bowel syndrome, which are very similar in that they create a lot of the same type of histamine symptoms. Now, so SIBO is an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestines, and this bacteria is normally found in the colon and large intestines, but has spread to the small intestines. So it shouldn't reside there. So this causes all kinds of food sensitivities. It causes gas and bloating. It creates a mess. And honestly, I've seen a lot of this and an increase in it in the last few years. I think a lot of it is overconsumption of probiotic supplements that open up in the wrong places in the body. So I always recommend eating fermented foods because that won't happen with fermented foods. They go to the parts of the body that are needed. And where probiotics supplements have huge amounts in them in many diverse strains, and then they open up places they shouldn't be, and then you got all kinds of problems. We've also seen a great diminishment in bifidobacteria in people since COVID, and that's causing a lot of problems. But we've had some great success with some new cultured yogurts that have a unique strain of L. reuteri and L. gasseri that are really helping people to overcome SIBO. And I've seen a lot of people overcome SIBO with just L. reuteri. It is very powerful, and L. reuteri tends to dominate too, whatever it's with. So I think that L. reuteri alone is fabulous for helping to keep all of those bacteria in the right place, because it has bacterioses that go after things that don't belong in the small intestine, kill them, and then it colonizes that area, and it just clears up SIBO on its own. So they have those natural antibiotics in them, and they actually do things that nothing else can do, because this is where the strain normally abides. And there's many different strains of L. reuteri. We've gotten the strain that works very, very well. And you can also, we have a SIBO yogurt where you can make L. reuteri and L. gasseri separately and then eat them separately. We're really recommending people do that now, because what we're finding is we've been doing a lot more testing in the lab. And so if you put L. reuteri and L. gasseri together in a jar, you can't tell which one's dominating. One of the bacteria is going to dominate because that's just what bacteria does. And then it kind of diminishes the other. And what happens with L. reuteri, they use L. reuteri to clean the vats of fermentation equipment, because it's so strong, it goes after everything. And so I think if you make them together and put them together, you're not going to get as many benefits, because L. reuteri will probably dominate. They can't even test for this in the lab, because they're both from the species of Lactobacillus, so they can't tell if it's Lactobacillus reuteri in there or Lactobacillus gasseri in there. There's just no way to tell that, because those are subspecies. So we just really don't know. I think it's better to eat them separate. That's my opinion of what I've seen has worked for people. And you could just make a jar of each of them and then consume them a little bit, a couple spoonfuls of each jar, and it works very well. It does take some time to help get rid of SIBO. I've seen it usually takes, what I've seen from so many emails we get, was about 3 months is what it takes. Sometimes longer, depending on your dysbiosis, your gut, how out of whack it is. But like a few tablespoons a day, and it seems to work very, very well. Dr. Amy Myers, MD, found herself and her patients with histamine reactions, and she discovered that it was because of SIBO. And she was able to overcome her SIBO, resolve her histamine issues as well. When that went away, her histamine issues went away. Many people will follow what they call a low FODMAP diet, and I have an ebook for that for my members, from Biotic Pro members, that I'm giving out this month. This is what month? March already, and I'm going to give that probiotic member ebook out. It has a lot of good recipes and things that you could try if you're trying to stay on a FODMAP diet. But also, adding certain strains of probiotics that are low in histamines, along with taking the DAOM side, can really help with supporting the body and allowing your body to heal and get on a road to recovery. Now, later on in this podcast, I'm going to talk a lot more about some other supplements that we have found worked really well. And everybody is different, and this is going to be a chance for you to get very well acquainted with your body, to find out what it needs, and then you will learn what your body needs and what's going on. And most people ignore their gut bacteria, but it's so important. Mast cell activation syndrome occurs when the mast cells in the body release too much histamine. Now, and that's because it's having an immune response, so it's overreacting to something. This means that if there's an existing inflammation in the body, any extra histamine, whether it be from a food, a local allergen, or bad bacteria in the gut, is likely to cause a response. And there's still a lot of confusion about this, but a study that appears in the peer-reviewed Biological Pharmaceutical Bulletin of Japan showed that rice kefir in test tubes studied with mast cells was able to inhibit mast cells from releasing inflammatory cytokines that may be problematic for those dealing with histamines, because they can be very much a problem. This might be a good choice for those who want to consume kefir, but they're worried about a histamine response. And I have a really good recipe for rice kefir. That will be in this article in the link description below. So here's the deal. There's no one-size-fits-all curing for healing your gut and neutralizing histamine problems, because you don't really know what's going on, whether you have SIBO. Usually if you have SIBO or leaky gut, you know it, because you're going to have massive amounts of gas and bloating. And what we have found is some people do fine on small amounts of cultured foods, so it starts to change their guts and give them more species in their gut, which is going to help heal histamine problems, while others, that does not work for them, and they need certain foods and supplements and reduce or eliminate all offending foods until their histamine issues are resolved. So fixing the gut and lowering stress is at the crux of this problem. Your body is really just sending out a cry for help. That's why these symptoms are happening. It's a warning sign. It's not the enemy. It's just letting you know that things are out of balance. And you might have more bad bacteria than good bacteria. That creates an imbalance and won't allow you to break down the histamines naturally. That's what your body's naturally supposed to do. So if you have SIBO or IBS, which creates inflammation and a histamine load, that's going to overwhelm your body. And you might be missing key vitamins and minerals, that you need more of the right enzymes that help break it down. These are the questions that only you can answer along with your healthcare provider. There are so many people out there that are struggling, but they have different journeys. They have different reasons for it. So here's the deal. If you're wanting to overcome SIBO and you think it's causing the histamine problems, then you can follow the low FODMAP diet, which may be key. And we have seen L-Reuteri and L-Gasseri help a lot of people with SIBO. That would be a great place to start. Remove the foods that are bothering you, but mostly, and very importantly, remove sugar and alcohol and refined carbohydrates. And try adding the yogurt and see if it can help you. In a month, you should start to see some relief. Now, one supplement that company that I have used for decades, I love it. It's called Standard Process. You can get their products that usually they have to be from practitioners like chiropractors or naturopaths. They all sell these type of supplements because they educate them in them. They're very well made. They're whole food supplements. And I have used their supplements for decades. And there's some really good ones. I take Drummondin every day. It's kind of like my natural vitamin. That's a great one. But there's one especially good for histamines, and it's called, I don't even know how to say this, Antronics, I think is what it's called. Antronics. Anyway, it's a whole food immune system support for your liver health. Now, it acts as a natural antihistamine for filtering the liver. The liver filters 1/3 of the total body's blood flow every minute. And this supplement enhances the liver's ability and filtering abilities. And that is crucial for histamines since they are released by every tissue in the body when they become inflamed. So your liver, so if you have a histamine reaction, your liver is stressed because it's taking all of those histamines that are released from all your cells and trying to filter it. And maintaining your body's defense is very important when you have histamine response, especially your liver. Now, here's another interesting thing that I've really noticed. Lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are some of the best species in your body. They're some of the most important. Lactobacillus is a warrior. It's quite powerful. It's Lactobacillus reuteri, Lactobacillus gasseri. There's like 15 more of those, if not, oh gosh, there's so many. And it's very powerful all by itself. But some people can be sensitive to it if they're having problems with histamines. They came biogenetic amines and they have different ones in there, which can make sensitive individuals have a reaction when they're struggling with histamines. Normally, they don't bother you at all. And in most people, they don't. But if they're bothering you, anything with lactobacilli, then bifido is the gentler of the two species, and it will build up your immune system. And if you can't handle fermented foods and they give you a flare-up, taking a prebiotic that helps fulfill bifido, which is called HMO, human milk oligosaccharides, are prebiotic that are actually made through fermentation and will help build up bifidobacteria, which is the one species that they're saying most people are low in when they're having histamine responses. And having lots of bifidobacteria actually interferes with the histamine pathways and reduces levels of histamine while helping you to restore your gut flora. You really need Lactobacillus 2 reuteri, especially if you're having like SIBO, but if you can't handle it, you really do want to build up bifido. And HMOs are fabulous. They're made through this precise fermentation device, and they quadruple your bifido. And a lot of people have diminished their bifidobacteria since COVID. A lot. I mean, a lot. That's why so many people are having immune responses. And you really need that bacteria to build it up. And HMOs is a fabulous way. It's not a species. It's the food that makes it grow. It's what you get when you're born from your mother. And they've made it into a formula where you can have it in a capsule or powder form. I put it in smoothies, or you can put it in water, and it works very, very well. And I'll put the link to all that below, but that might be a great place for you to start. Now, I talked about the enzyme DAO. We already talked about getting that if you're needing that. Sometimes that helps people, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on what's wrong. Supporting your liver. That was the other one I talked about, the other supplement, but there's another supplement I suggest too, that if you want to try this one, that I take all the time. I think it's great because when you're having histamines, we need another histamine degrading enzyme called HNMT, histamine N methyltransferase. This special enzyme resides within your liver, where they focus solely on a histamine and prevent it from entering into the bloodstream. So a healthy liver is so crucial for histamine intolerance. And we have a product called Livamin that's really good for your liver too. Both of those are good liver support system. You can take one or both or the other. I think they both will really help you. But I think you probably only need one. You could take what was the other supplement called? Anatronics is really good. If I had to take one, I'd probably take that one. That's the best one. And then the other thing that you need to really do is to reduce stress. If you're under a lot of stress, and that's easier said than done sometimes, the cortisol stimulates mast cells to release histamine when you're really freaked out, which inhibits histamine's secretions, and it just causes a mess in the body. So if you have chronic long-term stress, you become resistant to stress hormones. Cortisol loses its ability to inhibit the histamines, and so then they just go berserk. So controlling stress is really crucial. I have a good article on 10 ways to control stress. There's a lot of different things you can do to do that will help your body. But just know one thing, if you're struggling with histamines, it is your body's cry for help. And there's a lot of things you can do. I know this is a lot of information. You can read the article and see all the things that are helping people that we help, that people that tell us what's working for them. Support your liver, clear up your SIBO or IBS if you have it. If you have leaky gut, you need to fix that. You can do that with apple peels and apple peel powder. Have an apple a day if you can handle that, or just eat the peel. A peel should be fine for people that are, or the apple peel powder would work too. Those are all things that you can do to help you fix. But whatever it is, you have to kind of dissect your own symptoms and find out what's really going on. If you just take the DAOM sign and that works, then you're good. But always at the crux of all of this is that your gut bacteria is out of whack. That's what's going on. 9 times out of 10, that's what's happening. You don't have the right species in your gut. And it's really important to get those species back in line. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge. But all in all, I have seen amazing things happen once people start to heal their guts. So I hope that helps. I'm going to have an article on this with all the information, all the different things that you can look at, and see whatever you feel most, whatever you feel like you're leaning towards, you should do that, because that's usually your body communicating with you. So I hope that helps, and I hope you feel better soon. Histamines are miserable. So just tune into your gut bacteria and go slowly and try a few of these things and see what works for you. And hopefully this helps. We'll talk to you next time, guys. Thanks so much for listening.